When you're filling it with these fill-in words and short phrases, it's saying to the audience, they don't know what they're talking about. They're having difficulty in recalling. So why don't people understand you, me? What is it that stops them? Well, J.B. Shaw, back in the earlier part of the 20th century, said, the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's actually taken place. And how many times do we think that? There's a lot of talking going on, but is there communication happening? But plenty of places, they don't speak English. They don't understand you. You don't understand them. So how do you communicate? Well, maybe we do signs and gestures and pointing and actually get a picture off our phone these days. You see, the brain doesn't work in words. Revelation time, the brain does not work in words. It works in images. So let's have a look at some of the elements of communication. And I divide it down into what I call the 3 V's. The 3 V's. The vocal, the verbal, and the visual. Well, the average attention span of a child is about not hours, not minutes, seconds, 5 seconds. So what's the average attention span of an adult? We don't learn too much. Yes, some people, it actually goes backwards. But across the population, it's about 7 seconds. 7 seconds. When you start a communication, you need to start it with what I call the grab. You have to get their attention right up front because you've just got that 7 seconds. That's all. You've got to start off. You've got to hit the ground running. That's why getting that grab initially, how do you do that? It sets the scene and you might buy a few minutes and that's all. You've got to continually keep going back in and grabbing their attention. You've got to put your audience first. Regrettably, many, not all, many Americans have learned how to do this. But when it's about you, that's the problem. You've got to put your audience first all the time because it's not about you. And it's so easy to use words that we know and understand and expect our audience to understand. That's why we have to know and understand our audience and use their language. Now, what about all those, what I call verbalized pauses? They're pauses which you've filled with a sound. Um, uh, like, no, I don't know. That's why you're doing the speaking. Don't tell me I know. And yet we do these without even realizing that we're doing it. If your slide contains sentences, you'll get an from me. Because of that, as I've just said, you'll be lucky if they even remember the key word, let alone all the words. And if you've got to read it, it says to the audience, do they really know what they're talking about? Did they produce this talk? Or did someone else produce it and they're just reading it? Put it on automatic. Play some music. Go and have a cup of coffee. Don't insult your audience. You have to know what you're talking about. So never, ever, 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 as Churchill would say, read the slides. It's like playing an instrument. It's a skill. It's not a talent, it's a skill. You're not born with the ability to be a great speaker. I certainly wasn't. I had to learn. It's no different to playing the violin, which I used to do, playing the guitar. It's a skill.